land of the giants. These guys, speaking of giants, we have some giants in the muskie world on the screen. Guys, welcome. Andy, welcome back. You're doing double duty. I know how that feels. And Kyle, it's good to see you again. Guys, take it away. Kick me out.
Thanks very much. Awesome job so far, guys. I can't imagine how you're doing it. I'm just getting prepped for this one here, and I can feel the frustration or the actual tension. So let's kick it off. Hi, folks. Welcome to the Barrie segment of Muskies Canada at Work. I'm your host, Alan Couliari, chairman of the Barrie chapter. Today, I'm joined with two legends. Let's just be honest. Andy Pappas, if you were with us on the last training session there, he was talking, and he's going to continue to talk on this one as well. And we also have Kyle Garon. So for segment one, is going to be just a summary of volunteer activity with MCI chapter in the closest proximity for Georgian Bay and Lake Simcoe. And Andy Pappas, take it away.
All right, and I'm going to try to talk fast because we need to leave plenty of time to talk about what we all love, which is the actual fishing on Georgian Bay. So, but out of respect for the fact that this is an international event that we're doing here, and there are American viewers from other Canadian provinces, I'll just, Alan, you'll be so good to throw the slide up and show people where we are. Barrie is a city of about 200,000 people, situated very close to the famous muskie fishery on southern Georgian Bay. So it was probably just a matter of time before we got a chapter going here. How are you doing there, Alan? You got that?
Yep.
Okay. It's funny. I'm not seeing it.
Neither am I.
You're not seeing the actual shared content?
Yeah.
No, you've got to share your screen, Alan. Unfortunately, you know the button at the bottom that's got the plus sign. It says share.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. This one then.
Perfect.
You can see it?
No.
I didn't do anything. There's no plus sign here. There's
Okay. Well,
I'm seeing it shared. So let's try.
How about if I just ramble? And if you get the slides going, that's fine. But we are on a limited timeline here. So
Yeah, keep going.
so yeah, Barrie's located very close to southern Georgian Bay and famous muskie fishery there. We're also on the shores of Lake Simcoe. So when the Barrie chapter was started in 2013, oh, there we go. So that's where we're at. You can see Georgian Bay just to the north of us, and Lake Simcoe immediately to the east.
Are you seeing it now or no?
You're good.
No difference.
So when the Barrie chapter started in 2013, the Lake Simcoe Muskie Restoration Project that you might have already seen on another session was already in full swing. So our new membership right off the bat had a chance to participate in some of the netting for the broodstock, and also managers from the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources Aurora District Office that were our partners, Muskies Canada's partners in the LSMRP. They encouraged Muskies Canada to have local involvement in the project. So it was great that we were setting up a chapter on the shores of Lake Simcoe. So right from the start, we did things like helping to check these nets during spring gamete collection. Slide now. And then on the other end of the season, we got to also participate in the stocking events at various locations around Lake Simcoe. And it's important, I think it's noteworthy that Barrie chapter took advantage of those stocking events to start involving our next generation anglers in the project as well. So one of the things that our chapter did too that was helped the Lake Simcoe Muskie Restoration Project was to promote public awareness of the project. So you can see from the photo here in the bottom right of it, there's a logo for the local affiliate of CTV, and so we actually got the stocking events onto the local TV news several times, and that they provided significant coverage to explain to the public the purpose of the project and to advise the public that these stocked muskies were not to be harvested by anglers. So the public outreach, I think, was important there. So as the project went on, getting into the later years, it seemed as though demonstrating some success would be helpful to continue maintaining the support of project sponsors. So we tried to get some evidence that the stocked muskies were surviving to adulthood. Barrie chapter organized an effort to sample muskies by angling, and it involved applying for a special license from the Ministry of Natural Resources that allowed volunteers to legally fish for muskies on this water body that had no open season for muskie angling. Shown here is the form that volunteers had to fill out and that the chapter had to submit to the Ministry of Natural Resources to document the results. So muskies can be difficult. So although muskies up to the mid 40-inch range were hooked and lost by our volunteers, and others followed baits to the boat without striking, unfortunately, we didn't capture any. So where are we now? Well, Lake Simcoe receives heavy fishing pressure year-round. So as the local Muskies Canada chapter on Lake Simcoe, Barrie's members are well connected in the local fishing community and tend to receive the reports now that the stocked muskies are being caught in Lake Simcoe. So it's Barrie chapter members that feel like stewards of the fishery, and they saw the need to continue increasing public awareness of the project. So with the help of Tom McCutcheon from Kawartha chapter, thanks Tom, big shout out to Tom, and financial support from Muskies Canada at the national level, special signs were produced early in 2020 to not only show the difference between pike and muskies to help anglers identify the difference, but also to make it clear that it was illegal to retain any muskies from Lake Simcoe. And the sign also includes a phone number that should be called to report anyone who keeps a muskie. So volunteers from Barrie chapter, like Alan here, have been installing these signs at ice fishing access points and boat launches all around Lake Simcoe. So although Barrie is on the shores of Lake Simcoe, and we're very interested in the LSMRP, Southern Georgian Bay is where the majority of the Barrie chapter's members do their fishing. So Barrie chapter's primary fundraisers are fishing events on Southern Georgian Bay. Here's a couple of the advertisements for those. And what do we do with those funds? Well, some of the funds raised by Barrie chapter are then used to support muskie-related research projects on Georgian Bay, the fishery we love. The research improves our understanding of muskie populations on Georgian Bay and identifies critical spawning and nursery habitat for the muskie population there. Examples include a telemetry study by McMaster University with the Ministry of Natural Resources and spawning area surveys. We had record low water levels several years ago on Georgian Bay, and the spawning area surveys were the results were very concerning because there was no natural reproduction happening during those years of very low water. So now in 2021, our Barrie chapter's already made a financial contribution to McMaster University to do another spawning area survey this year to see to what extent the reproduction and recruitment have recovered. So if you're interested in more information about the research work being done on Georgian Bay or in donating to that, you can contact the Barrie chapter of Muskies Canada, and we'll give you some information, and you can support. I guess Alan, that's all I've got. You go ahead.
Yes, and that's awesome. So there is an image of our actual venue. It may just be one of the best venues to host a meeting. It's Donnelly's Pub, Irish pub in just close to Kempenfelt there, downtown in Barrie by the waterfront. Great location, great service, great food, and on top of it, great information that's being shared by the group. As you can see, there's a few lures in the background here. These are all members of the Barrie chapter, along with Andy Pappas, and I would have to say we're probably the largest in terms of lure manufacturers out there for custom baits. But with that said, let's kick off the next segment. So the next segment, the presentation about fishing one of the world's most legendary bodies of water, Georgian Bay. This exclusive content will be provided by Kyle Garon of Slobland Flicks, famous for hunting giants and sharing those adventures on his Slobland Flicks YouTube channel. So let me just kick that off for you guys.
This one's PG.
Is it? Can you guys see the black screen? Can you guys see that?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to Slobland Flicks. Once again, I'm your host, Kyle Garon. Today, Muskies Canada asked me to talk to you about the massive body of water called Georgian Bay. Georgian Bay is located in southern Ontario, about an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Toronto. You can hit the southernmost portions of Georgian Bay, Severn Sound, Honey Harbor area, Midland area. And then from there, you can go about 190 kilometers north to the most northern sections. And the bay itself is 80 kilometers wide, encompassing about 15,000 square kilometers overall. The first word that comes to mind when I think about Georgian Bay is daunting. In its own right, it can be considered a Great Lake. It's 80% of the size of Lake Ontario. So, where do you start? And that's where I kind of wanted to direct this video for those of you that don't have a lifetime to fish Georgian Bay, like I have. I want to show you how you can break down specific sections of each inlet or river system located on Georgian Bay. Luckily, most, if not all, of the muskie fishing done on Georgian Bay is in the southern, eastern shorelines and northern shorelines. That's where all your river systems come in, or the vast majority of them, and just endless structure, the right depths, the right water temperatures. Therefore, you can almost eliminate, I would say, 60 to 70% of the bay right off the hop. But it is still extremely vast. Some of these rivers, for example, the French River, in its own right, is 120 kilometers long up to Lake Nipissing. So it is endless. I've been fishing it for 35 years of my life, and I can honestly say that I'm just scratching the surface. You know, I've got an edge. I've got an idea of, you know, how these fish move and react based on seasons. So my breakdown here, I hope, can help those of you that can come up here and, you know, do a week or 2 week trip per season and have success. So, another thing I want to add, keep in mind, the density on this body of water is low, but I think anyone who's in the know can agree that there are world record fish swimming around this water. In fact, the last confirmed 60-pounder came out of Honey Harbor in 2001, 61 pounds. The fish was only 17 years old. So that gives you an idea of the type of growth rates that is available in Georgian Bay. And it's one of the reasons why I continue to fish it and will continue to fish it for the rest of my life. So let's take baby steps here. Check out the next few segments. I'm going to try and break down one system where I think you can apply it to almost every small inlet or river that comes off of Georgian Bay, and hopefully it'll help you find success. So let's have a look. In my opinion, there are 3 to 4 stages of every inlet. Other than maybe the French River Delta, this is one of the most diverse river systems on the Georgian Bay. I chose this one because it breaks down nicely, and I can give you a good example of each stage I am talking about. For those of you that fish Georgian Bay, I'm sure you'll recognize this area right away. And for those of you that don't, you can do about 5 minutes of research and figure it out. What I've circled here in red would be the complete area of this inlet, from the beginnings of a small river building all the way out to a massive open water delta. Because it is the only major river system in the area, it may draw fish in for the spawn from an even greater distance than what I have circled. Now, let's take a closer look at each of the 4 stages within this system. As you can see, I've got 4 different colors representing the 4 stages of movement for a lot of muskies that use this system. Starting with black, which represents our major spawning areas. As water temps warm, fish will begin to transition out towards their summer home ranges through the green area, and then finally setting up in the red and yellow areas beyond. Circled here in black is stage 1, which I consider the major spawning areas for a lot of muskies that use this system. On Georgian Bay, muskies will almost always gravitate towards river systems to spawn, and like salmon, the vast majority will continue to spawn in the same river system that they were hatched in, which in turn creates a specific DNA for the muskies in each and every inlet. These spawning areas are usually shallower stained water that warms fast and almost always has vibrant weed growth. On top of all of this, later in the season, there are massive bait migrations back into this river. All the things muskies are looking for in a spawning area. I would classify this area as a eutrophic body of water. Stage 2, I've circled here in green. As the water warms in stage 1, muskies and bait will begin to migrate back out towards their summer home ranges. I consider these areas transition zones that fish are moving through. I will start to fish these areas when the water temp reaches about 65 to 70 degrees. Typically, these areas have moderate depths. Water clarity starts to increase, but still has some color. This is a mixing area where the river water meets the gin-clear waters of Georgian Bay. I would classify this area as a mesotrophic body of water. Some muskies will live here year-round, but the oily bait fish such as ciscos and whitefish cannot survive in these areas during the summer. Stage 3, I've circled in red. This area is just beyond the transition areas of stage 2. I start to fish these areas when the water temperature reaches the 75-degree mark. I consider an area like this a summer home range for some muskies during moderately warm summers. The water clarity here is much clearer than stage 2. It will still have slight coloration, but is much closer to the gin-clear water of the open bay. I consider this an oligotrophic body of water. This area can support the oily bait fish large muskies are targeting throughout the summer. Stage 4, I've circled in yellow. This again is one more step out from stage 3. I start fishing this area typically when the inner portions of this inlet's water temps are extreme. Stages 1 and 2 will be pushing the 80-degree mark, and stage 3 is in the upper 70s. By waiting for these water temperatures, I feel the odds are much better for me to contact fish in these vast areas. You must pay attention to wind and weather when fishing this area. It can become very dangerous in a hurry. Do your research and pick your days before fishing this type of water. It can be extremely daunting to fish out here. The structure seems endless, so allow yourself time to learn small sections at a time. This can be a home range for muskies on any given year, but especially during extremely hot summers. The water clarity here is ultra gin clear. I would also consider this area to be oligotrophic. Now, you're almost at the end of the structure on the eastern shores of Georgian Bay. Not far past this point is the open abyss. Remember, there can and will be resident fish that live all season in each of these inner stages, but a large number of fish move and follow the larger oily bait into these outer areas. In fact, it is my belief that the largest fish in the system will spend their summers in stages 3 and 4, and they will be fat, without a doubt. When water temperatures are ultra high during the summer, I'll typically fish each inlet from the outside in, starting at stages 4 and 3 and working my way in until I contact fish and or bait. The vastness of each stage might take you 2 to 3 days to break down. So be patient, be smart about it. Maybe pick a half dozen or so of the best looking structures in each stage and fish them thoroughly from bottom to top, looking for bait and or any signs of muskies before moving into the next stage. Bait is probably one of the main factors when it comes to fishing Georgian Bay. Because they have so much structure to choose from, the bait is typically more important there than it would be on any other given smaller lake where they're kind of locked in. Because a muskie on Georgian Bay can leave at any time and swim 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 kilometers up the break line following bait into the next inlet. So keep your eyes on the screen looking for good sized musky bait. That's where knowing your electronics comes in handy too, knowing what species of fish look like on your finder so that you can dictate whether or not it's good musky bait. Conversely, in the spring, I'll do the exact opposite and start from the inside, working my way out until, again, I contact either fish or muskies. And again, giving each section at least a day or two to break down, fishing the best parts of each section. That's really about all I can say on that. Let's take a closer look at baits now and how I like to use them in each different situation, the colors I like to use, the bait styles I like to use. Let's take a look. Okay, guys, so this literally is how my boat was put away. I've cleaned up a little bit, but for the most part, the baits that I finished the season with are still in the boat. So let's go through a few here. Starters, blue water baits. What happened? God.
Don't know, gents. The sound just disappeared.
Big.
Your
This one here, one of my absolute favorites.
sound's back.
Got some legit whales on that one. 45 pounders. In fact, you see it's been recorded a few times, but that color is deadly on Georgian Bay. There's lots of walleye out here. That white belly really helps. They'll come up and eat that. They see that white belly. Also a fantastic color. There's fish on video using both these baits, giants. I like my naturals and my darks on Georgian Bay. But yeah, Blue Water does a fantastic job. Like I said, if anything, I'm running the lesser of his baits, but they still work for me. He's made a lot of changes, a lot of improvements. So contact him if you want to fish Georgian Bay because his baits work. And he's got the 2-to-1, the 3-to-1. He's got 12 inchers. He's got 16 inchers. I'm running the 12s now too, which are fantastic. But then he's also got these small ones that I love running as a long line, especially when I have multiple people in the boat. My first lines through typically are larger baits, but baits this size on Georgian Bay, I won't run them first through, but I will make sure there's a little nugget out there. So I don't even know what he calls that one, but this one's got a nice walk. It's not like a believer walk. It's more of a wider spread walk where it returns and then spreads, then returns, and then walks the other way. But yeah, walleye, natural perch, this black perch, and the high back green is a great color on Georgian Bay. We did this bait, it was a Slobland version that he did for us. He did 100 of them. I kept one. So as you can see, I only kept one and it's white. I like white. Not everyone likes white, but white and black, really any body of water is a good go-to. And of course, if you've been watching Slobland at all, you know I love my believers. And a lot of these too, I'll get them custom painted. Lydia's painted a bunch of these for me, and some of them I'll drill out, fill them with foam to keep them more true. And in that ultra clear water, you don't always need those rattles. I like the rattles more in the evenings on Georgian Bay or further back in the darker stained inlets, the river systems. Those rattles come into play. But that clear water, that ultra gin clear water, sometimes you don't want the rattles. And Drifter also makes some great colors like this natural walleye. I've got some absolute whales. This one's getting retired soon. One more big fish on this, and this one's hanging on the wall. But she still runs. And yeah, I'm not done with her yet. She's got the mojo. This is a classic Georgian Bay color. It's the Rolf Perch, and Lydia at Blue Water does probably the best version of it in my mind. So I have, and a lot of baits too, like especially the believers. I'll have ones with rattles, and I have another one here. I'm not going to dig it out because it's a goddamn mess, but and I have ones with no rattles. So yeah, and this to me is kind of a small bait for Georgian Bay. So a lot of times I'll be long lining that size of a believer. The odd time, if things are slow, I'll run that as my first bait through. But when times are tough, man, get the believer out. It gets the job done, especially that size, that 10-inch. That's a great size. But yeah, that's generally I run smaller baits on my long lines on Georgian Bay, and I would consider this a smaller bait for Georgian Bay. Another mess of a box I got here. This is a new one I started running this year. Toddy Tickles has put a few of these into my hands. Me and Matt got a couple nice fish on Nipissing on these. I haven't contacted anything on Georgian Bay yet, but I like his paint. His paint is mint, and the quality of these baits is great too. So I'm gonna keep running them. I'm gonna get my hands on. He makes some bigger ones with these fatter lips. So that's probably, this is a 3-1, like I said. He's got a 2-to-1, which is a true 2-to-1 up to like 30 feet, which is ridiculous. So he's got it dialed in. Check him out too. Toddy Tickles does a great job. And let's go through the rest of this. It's done real well for us. And there's one with the plastic lip. So yeah, I don't go, like, I'm not always going super crazy on size, but the best tackle system in the industry. This bait here I like as well. Also made by Legend. And it's the perch bait and the plow. That's the Outcast. Another one runs super shallow, like 5 or 6 to 1, something like that. So you can long line that. It's not a super big, intimidating bait. Bring that through behind your other baits in your spread, and a lot of times that gets smoked. Big fish like that one. So I use a lot of colors. I mix and match. The Fire Tigers are always really good in the clear water on Georgian Bay. Yeah, so this is just a mess more than anything. So that's that. I'm literally going through my boat as it was. So let's see what I got. Depth raters, same thing. I'll always run these. I've got a mishmash of these. I run these as the long line. Typically, if I have 3 people in the boat, because like I said, Georgian Bay tends to fish better with bigger baits, especially when you're in the open water. If you're back in the inlets, I'll lean harder on these, but I typically will only put one of these out if I have 4 lines out, just as like a true peanut coming in behind. But they catch absolute whales everywhere. That's just some walleye stuff that I always carry. I always carry a walleye rod because when I mark a walleye, I know my electronics well. I'm a semi-big walleye fisherman, so when I mark walleye, I'm going to try and catch them 9 times out of 10. Again, Legend, perch baits, or this is the plow, sorry. There's a 13-inch believer. Those darker golden colors are Honey Harbor. That's a good color. Jointed plow. I like using these more in the evenings. Yeah, my tackle box system isn't the greatest, but what I like, the way I like to fish is I like everything tucked away. I don't want a tackle box anywhere. A lot of times I'll stuff all my baits in clear boxes under here that I want readily available. So yeah, and everything else is tucked away, so there's never a mess. Rods are tucked away. Everything's ready to go, and stuff you need that you're using consistently, I have under here. Another greatly underutilized system, the Shadzilla with the hog collar. Lebowski makes those. That's an absolute deadly system right there. I'm not a huge color guy. I do lean on certain colors, but I'm totally willing to mix it up at any time. Shit's not going my way, I gotta change something. So a lot of times color is the first thing I'll change because I know the baits work. All these baits work. They all run good. And sometimes it's just a little twitch you gotta make. A little change up to get them to go. Candy, which is pretty close to the perch bait. These I find pound a little harder than the perch baits, and they run slightly deeper. So that's a good situation to run those is when the perch baits, have been they've seen a lot of perch baits. So yeah, I got the whatever color that is, the black walleye, or I don't know the names of these things. That's an old Slobland color that Colin Vader made up. Walleye, felon, glitter perch. That's another Outcast, also good. Also a good color. Realistically, fish will eat any color. Sometimes they're picky, sometimes they don't give a shit. Another bait I love running in the evenings and in the dark. Just slow rolling this thing. A monster of a bait, they can find that. Another jointed. The jointeds I typically run like dusk into the darkness mostly, and when the water's super cold, just because they give the illusion of moving faster. More OG blue waters that you'll never get your hands on ever again. And like I said, these baits are 10, 12, 13 years old, so some of them I don't even think I've ever ran that one. So many I got. Another version of the plow, the smaller lip. this actually doesn't really go shallower than the big lip at all. Very slightly. Originally when I got these baits, I thought they would run shallower, but they pound pretty much just as hard as the big lip for some reason. I don't get it, but more perch baits. Again, I mostly use natural colors other than that fire tiger. Yeah, so you can see there's a bit of a trend in my colors. I love the strawberry. Strawberry, 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 strawberry. There's a ICT my buddies in Ohio made. I haven't really put enough time into that. They look good. That's the problem with having too many baits. Not everything gets ran. So yeah, as you can see, I like my whites, my browns, my perches. We got Wileys here. Also a good size. And the drifter version. Hawker. The only real difference is, I think the Wileys, I think that's a Kowalski. These go a little deeper, and these ones have rattles. But yeah, it's a pretty, I like to keep things relatively simple, so to speak. But you can see whites, browns, natural colors. It's you gotta match what's in the body of water you're fishing, and Georgian Bay has a little bit of everything. I like to run these spinner baits, a lot of Lebowski's. That's a great color in Severn Sound, where you have a little bit of sediment in the water. That's a good color. Purples are good. These are all Lebowski's. You all run these in the springs over newly emergent weed lines, and then you got some deeper ones. This is a fathead. I forget who makes these. Guy out in Ottawa. Forget the name of them. Rob Days. So yeah, these ones work better over deeper water. That head actually collects a lot of weeds if you're running it. That's where the Lebowski's are good. This will slide through the weeds a lot easier than something like that. So you got to have a little bit of everything on hand because you don't know what the day is going to bring you. Let's move up front here. I like to keep most of my trolling stuff back here. Most of my casting stuff up front. More plows, various colors. I like to have jointed and solid versions of the same color if I can. Again, these are both actually blue water paint jobs. I've been lucky enough to be friends with Lydio for a while, so I get him to paint a lot of my stuff just to have a little bit of edge. This is, these are my bottom bulldogs. Brian came up with this system years ago, but there's a pounder. Literally, I use my trolling motor and just pull this thing on the bottom, and you're not going to get snagged up, and it gets eaten. That's more of a late fall tactic I do. I have multiple sizes. White, walleye, black. So that's that. And then I just, random baits. Can't beat the original periwinkle when it comes to Georgian Bay. This is the original deep diving crankbait that most every other crankbait is based off of. So yeah, this is the original gangster here. If you can get your hands on these, he doesn't make that many anymore, but the ones he does make, you'll have forever. Like, you cannot kill this bait. And you can get this thing 30, 35 feet deep with relative ease, which is a good tactic on Georgian Bay in the fall. You got to fish your deeper structures and put your baits down near bottom. Those big fish are lazy. There's a John Mortimer bait. These run wicked. I like these flat-sided baits too in the fall, especially. There's not a whole lot that you can get flat-sided that have that deep lip. Thing runs nice. Gotta have a little bit of everything. The longer you fish, the more baits you're gonna have, even though I think I'm scaling down. So this is a cooler, so when I'm casting, I keep the baits I'm casting regularly just at my fingertips. So that's a cool system the Bulldog came up with to add an extra ounce. so it drops a little faster in the fall. Another great color in cold water. Can't beat that. Black. The tubes, the Red October tubes, also a go-to for me on any body of water, not just Georgian Bay. They eat these things. They eat them hard. If you're not running the Red Octobers, you should probably check those out. So I like to keep stuff, readily available. I got the Medusa there. I like that color later in the year as well. I really like walleye. Walleye's always been good for me. Bucktails, obviously for the shallower weed structure. Started running some of these bigger blades this year. I troll these. I'll cast them, but I find these what are the supermodels? They're not weighted so great for casting, especially in big water. But trolling those is unbelievable. I make some bucktails and I put tons of weight in them just because I can't stand fighting the wind. And that's one of mine. I think those are 12s. But you see the trend. I'll run some of that marabou, tinsel marabou, a little bit of everything. Black on black. That's an evening bait for me. Again, I'm trolling this stuff really all year, but typically over vegetation. Sometimes I'll run them in open water as a long line. Just depends how many guys you got in the boat. And I like to keep some smaller bulldogs. When I have follows and stuff, I'll throw these. Or when it's ultra windy, it's a hell of a lot easier to throw a mag dog than a pounder. It's just more sleek, cuts through the wind a little better. I always have a box of top waters just in case the conditions are perfect. Early, mid-September, that first cool down. A lot of big fish come shallow and they eat these things. Swimming baits. Again, can't beat them. Mimics bait fish pretty much perfectly. I use both the Chaos and the Shadzilla. This has been a staple for years and years now. Pretty much since they came out, we've been running those. So yeah, you got to keep a variety of baits. Maybe not this much, but you can narrow it down. The baby beaver, as you can see, I got a sticker there. Ever since I started running these, I've been loving them. I think one of the first fish I got on them was a 56 incher, so that tells you they get eaten. And I have various colors. I use the Lake Edition. This head's full of lead, and then I'll also add these weight systems so I can add more weight. See if I can find one here for you. Just to get them down. Like I'll cast these things over 20, 30 feet of water, no problem. Sometimes I'll count them down. Certain conditions, I just run them back and the fish will chase them, regardless of how deep they are. These all get eaten. I've also been playing around with this system, a little dozer in front of it. Looks ultra cool, and it works. So yeah, if you're not running beavers, you probably should. I like drilling holes in these too. You can buy them like that, but especially the hair dries out better. More beavers. I obviously like beavers. I obviously like bulldogs. More pounders. This one's had the snot knocked out of it. Now I'm gonna fix that and run it again. Why not? She's not done yet. Oh, more spinner baits. These are a mixture of the heavy Lebowskis. I don't know what you call it, the big Lebowski possibly. Get these out. Yeah. Again, my tackle system, I probably lose like 10 hours a season just unhooking baits, trying to get them out to run them, but it's worth it to keep your boat clean, I think. So yeah, big Lebowski. And then I've got a few of those. As you can see, I like blacks. Some walleye patterns here. White and black. And this one Lydio just came out with, blue water, last year. And that's a cool system. I missed a real big fish this year on a L turn at the boat on this thing, like 54, 55 incher. Ended up smoking my trolling motor. Missed the bait completely by like half a foot. Ended up smoking the bottom of my trolling motor in the process. The whole fish flew out of the water, but that tells me they're going to eat this thing. And all these are weighted super heavy, so if you can slow roll them back and they're coming in like 15 feet deep. Or you can count them down, let them hit bottom, and then bring them up off bottom, which I also like to do. Georgian Bay fishes, it's funny, it can fish ultra shallow and it can fish ultra deep, so you got to have all the tools available to do both, really. And you got to be willing to do both. That's the thing with Georgian Bay. Don't get stuck in a groove. Here's a Rennie bait. Another old girl. But he makes this now in various sizes. This thing walks too. If you don't know, if you haven't talked to Ian Ranamaki, Rennie Baits, at Rennie Baits, you're missing the boat, because especially in the fall, that's a big, perfect size profile for Georgian Bay. He does real well in the north end of Georgian Bay with his baits. Another white color. Here's more tubes. Medusa's tubes. I made this rig for the monster tube. It's kind of finicky, but the problem with these is it doesn't come with this middle hook. So a lot of fish are hitting it here. And unless it's an absolute giant, which normally will inhale the entire bait, but you're like mid 40-inch fish, like 40, 45s, 48s, a lot of times they'll hit it here and you won't get hooks. So I've missed a ton of fish on these, but I can't stop using them because they outperform so many other baits. So I came up with that rig, and it seems to help a little bit. I think I'm going to switch to I think he's got a 10-inch is the size down. I ordered a bunch of. See if maybe my hooking percentage goes up a bit. More tubes, pounders. You know, I don't use a ton of baits. I have a ton on hand. That's all. Medusas, jakes. Again, Georgian Bay. This is on the smaller side for a bait. Doesn't dive real deep, so I use these as long lines. A lot of natural colors. You got your Cisco patterns, walleye, black. Can't go wrong with that. More bucktails, some slob tails. Again, you see a trend in my color patterns. More about location and bait presentation than having every color in the rainbow. More bulldogs. 13-inch jake, also a staple in my boat on Georgian Bay. I like those bigger. I would choose this size jake over these jakes on Georgian Bay all day. All day. As the first bait through. Second bait through, the last bait through, I'll run these smaller jakes. And I've caught some of the biggest fish in my life growing up were caught on jakes in the backwaters of Georgian Bay. Grandma, 12 or 13-inch grandma, 13-inch I think. Oh, and this, I love this bait last year. That, I don't know what, it's like the 14-inch Suic. You can screw in the weights. This thing got smoked for me on the bay. I just have a little more confidence. There's so much water, so much structure on Georgian Bay that I just feel like a lot of times I want to get the attention. And the bigger the bait, the more attention it'll get. Might not always get eaten right away, but at least you'll know you're in the game. You're in the right area if you can get a follow at least. And that is about it for what I've got in here now. A lot of times I'll also switch baits in and out as I need to. Sometimes I'll get a hunch and, you know, think I can read the minds of these muskies and switch up some baits, but for the most part, that's how I fish. And those are the colors I'm using on Georgian Bay. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into how I do it, and you know, take what you can from that. And now, hopefully, I'm going to go into my computer and see if I can dig up some footage for you guys, because this is Slobland after all. Can't all be about me running my mouth. So I'm going to see if I can add a few fish to the end of this for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some information from it. You know, that's all I got for today. So enjoy the rest of the show, and good luck next season.
All right, welcome back.
Welcome back, indeed. How are you guys doing?
So I'm gonna just kick it right off. We got a couple of questions. I'm just gonna bulk them together.
So, guys, we are out of time right now. We are about 7 minutes past time. We're going to take those questions in the wrap-up show. Super excited to take those questions. And the last thing I want to do is kick the kings of muskies off the screen. But you got to go.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.